This is episode 172, and it's titled Heal the Healer. This is part 4 of 4, Reality. On Alternative Health Tools, where together we discover alternative healthcare tools and explore integrative healing philosophies for both individuals and practitioners.
Greetings, Angie here with Alternative Health Tools.
And this is Leslie.
And I'm Lisa from across the pond in the UK.
We are so excited you're here with us. This is technically part 4 of the Heal the Healer series that we've done. And I just want to quickly recap what we've done on these other parts in no particular order. We talked about the spirit, right? About having a GPS, having a purpose, really having the passion to live your purpose, which is the spiritual part, the zip code, the mind, the GPS, the body, the vehicle. And really we're bringing it all together. So you're in this vehicle, you have a GPS, you know where you're going, or maybe you don't. You have a zip code, you think you know we're going to have that moment, that season of time we talked about. And now we're really talking about the journey, right? The reality, because you've listened to these series, we hope, and you're looking and you remember nutrition and you remember the comment Leslie made about oils, and you're freaking out going, what? And maybe you heard something that we said about the mind or emotions, and you're like, seriously? I mean, honestly? And then you're going to the spirit and you're like, oh, I've got that, but I really don't know my purpose. So what we're doing today, which we're excited about, is really bringing it back in and saying, now let's all take a deep breath and let's talk about reality.
And the first thing I thought of, Angie, when you were saying about, bringing it back to reality and all the other things we've talked about in the other episodes, like oils and, the GPSs and my purpose, it's like, I could almost feel like feeling overwhelmed. I've now created a to-do list of all the things that I shouldn't do. And actually, it's not about that. It's about being. And something you said off air was about listening to yourself and about being, rather than thinking, oh, I've got to do that, or I must do that, or I heard that in the last episode. Start exploring it for yourself.
Yes. And just taking it one step at a time. We don't have to always do all of the things all the right way, right away. It's all a process.
I love that.
Right. And isn't it, I know in the emotional part, the session we did on emotions, we have to really acknowledge and recognize that we are on this journey, right? I mean, that's really what this is about, a journey of reality. And there'll be moments in which our body and our soul and our spirits want an expansion. So you're going to experience things to have that expansion. You're going to experience things in order to grow and expand and help guide you, right? So you're going down this path and you're thinking you're going the right way. You've got the passion and you're going and you're having the purpose. And then reality sets in and you're like going, well, maybe not so much. And this isn't resonating with me. When we talk about listen more to self, if we really go back, everything we talked about in this series, it's really what you said, Lisa, being still for a moment and listening to you. What is it that's inside of you? What resonates in, let's just do the body and movement and jumping on a mini trampoline. I mean, Lisa, you have yours in the middle of a garden. What more could you ask for, right? I mean, because it works. And that's really the key. My comment, and then I know we have a lot of other things to go over, is my big comment, my big thing is step outside the box and the comfort zone and quit expecting the go big, go home concept. What do you want to do? Maybe you don't want that next promotion. Maybe you don't want that next pay raise. Maybe you don't want that next responsibility or the McMansion or the whatever it is that society is drilling down in your space. Maybe you don't want that. And exactly. I'm here to say, I'm giving you permission to not want it. It's okay.
And I'm going to jump in here with a perfect example on a personal note, because I think you guys are aware of this, in the midst of planning a bicycle trip. It's right. Like,
yeah,
I don't necessarily need the next whatever on a physical realm in the place that I'm at. I really want to explore. I want to see some ancient places and I want to meet new people and see new things. And so I'm doing a Mediterranean bicycle tour this spring, and I'm going to be figuring out how to be in the right place at the right time so we can continue to do this. And I can continue to run small aspects of my business along the way and work with a few clients. And just how do you live your own personal best life? And what does that look like? And so I think, like you said, the big thing is to just get quiet and look inward. And, whether you say that is meditation or whatever it involves, it's about getting quiet and shutting out all the noise, just tuning into who it is that you truly are and what are the steps that you can take to move more in that direction.
Like very, very wise words. And I think a lot of people I speak to, they've never given themselves that permission. And Angie talked about permission as well. But Leslie, what you're saying is get comfortable with being still enough to hear what's going on. And a lot of people find that really uncomfortable because they've never practiced it before. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And if things come up for you, that's where maybe you need a health practitioner to walk with you and hold your hand and do some healing work with you. And that's okay too. You don't have to do this alone, but it's just taking that step and starting to show up for yourself on this wonderful journey of life.
And the thing that I would encourage too is that when you do that, there could be some scary feelings that come up. And they could be feelings of, whatever. I haven't done all the things that I wanted to do. I don't have the connections in life that I thought I would have at this stage of my life. I'm not whatever. And I would encourage people to just allow themselves to move through that feeling. A lot of it is that we don't face that feeling. We kind of bring it up for 3 seconds and then we don't want to think about that. And we go on to the next thing. But the reality is, if we actually delve into that feeling, it's not going to last that long. We're going to be with it for a minute or two, and then we're going to move through it. We're going to start to see past it and what the solution is. And that's the place to be.
Yeah. And I can say that really getting that outside support by moving through it, right?
Yeah.
So these emotions are bubbling up. And
Yeah.
especially right now, when you're listening to this, we're in this major shift in the universe. It's not just in one country or another. We're in a major shift in the universe. And it's not a political shift. It is a flat shift, my friends.
Yeah.
And so we're having these emotions bubble up with an opportunity for generational healing. And just as you claim the negative of the generations that we've experienced, I'm going to encourage you, one, to get support, whether it is through one of us or some other support person, to clear that out, whether it's shamanic work that I do. I mean, each of us, we do something that helps you clear and recognize that. But I'm also going to encourage you to find that generational success, that success that's come through the generations that's allowed you to make it this far and achieve what the hell you've achieved.
Right.
And then on the third part, step back and let's think about the healer. Let's go back to the body movement. What is one thing? These are action steps. One thing, and I mean one thing. It can literally be for the next month, every day, you bend over and touch your toes. Like literally, that could be just that for some people, right? I mean, it could be anything. Or maybe you're going to give up the massive caffeinated drinks, whatever they are in caffeine world, and replace it with some quality water. Maybe that's just it. Like really, again, listen to yourself and take the time for yourself. And when you look at the emotional mind, and I know we talked about the passion and the GPS, but I'm going to say, what are you putting in your emotion? Who are you aligned with? I'm not going to take plumbing advice from my mechanic. So quit freaking taking advice from some guru that's never been on the mountain.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, it makes no sense. And then the third part, the spiritual, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? Right? And that is where we get back to being still. It is time for us to take those generational impacts, all these components of healing, and begin to heal ourselves. So all the generations, and as we're interconnected, all of us can begin to heal together. And I'm really passionate about it. If you haven't figured that out,
no, we couldn't tell. We couldn't tell.
And one of the things that you said made me think of, who are you listening to? Make choices about who and what you want to feed into your mind. You can stay aware of what's going on in the world without being sucked into it for hours in a
Yes.
day,
Yeah.
whether it's watching it on TV and getting the ultra digested, ultra right or ultra left perspective, or whether it's scrolling whatever social media. Think about the input and
And
back off on the input and choose what you want to input into your mind and how you want to input that.
yeah, when we talk about diet, you're absolutely right, Leslie. It's the diet of information we're taking in as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's not just the diet,
Yeah.
the physical things that we're eating. It's the information that we're absorbing on a daily basis. And when we think about, the people that we spend the most time, like we become, or if we want change, we take advice from someone who's walked that, that path before, and they're where we want to get to, rather than someone like Angie says, you wouldn't take advice from a plumber to do, something else, a mechanic to do your plumbing, or, it's about really questioning. And I think that comes back to self-belief and self-confidence, because if you've got that inner knowing and you know something doesn't feel right, then it often isn't right.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the opportunity to say, well, am I surrounded by the right people?
Exactly.
What is my diet of information and nutrition that I'm taking in? Who else could I potentially hang out with or follow that could inspire me and lead me to on this healing journey? Because this is the reality. We're all on a healing journey. Whatever layer we're on, where there's still more healing to be done. And, that's what I love about what I do, is I'm always learning, and I'm always open to learning. And, I show people who are behind me on their learning journey, and I learn from the people who are in front of me. And I make sure I'm on that path, and I'm on that healing path, and I'm not diverted off it from information that's coming in that could kind of want to rock me.
I have to speak to that too, because when you're not living your purpose and driven by passion and really paying attention to your diet, all aspects of diet, right, or intake, I always laugh and say those are God woofings. I mean, I'm getting my ass whooped, and I'm well aware of it. And you listen more to yourself, and you step back. And what I'm really going to encourage as this reality or the journey is that I really want to give everyone permission to be okay, to be selective in who you hang around with. And I want to give you a story, and I think we all can relate to it, and it's a true story, sad as it's going to be. But, even family, and a lot of times our subconscious is that we don't want success, because if we have success, what would our family say about us? My birth father has called me a rich bitch more than once, and it's not accurate at all, but whatever, and I could go on and on about the narcissistic behavior, but I can remember one time, and this is why I really want to hit it home, that it is time for us to listen more to ourselves and have that confidence that Lisa's talking about, that inner confidence to step into our genius. I was featured in the center of a newspaper. Now, admittedly, it was a smaller newspaper, but it was still an entire county. So you're talking thousands. I mean, I don't know, 60,000 people read the paper. It wasn't like, 3. So I was featured in the centerfold of a newspaper. How cool is that, right? About everything I was doing and the lives I was changing, just my work in general. And I knew it was going to come out because I'd been interviewed on it, and I was really excited about it. And it was in my hometown newspaper, right? And I hadn't been home in a while, but they'd reached out, people that had left. What are you doing? It was that theme that was going on in the newspaper. And I was chosen, which I was blessed. I was really excited about. And so I came home knowing that Wednesday, my mom, my family, everyone that lived there, I'm the only one that moved away, would all be getting the newspaper, right? And I'm all excited. I'm like, because I haven't seen the end result. Yeah. So I don't know the end result. Like, I did the interview, but I don't know how the article read, and I couldn't wait to see it. So I roll up in there. My entire family's like, oh, no. We haven't now. I don't remember seeing it in there. They had an excuse. So I asked my mom, I said, how was the newspaper this week? Because I knew it had just hit. And she said, oh, it was good. I said, what? Well, was I in the centerfold, Mom? I mean, better than Playboy. Was I in the centerfold, And she's like, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, cool. Can I read it? She says, oh, it's in the recycle bin. So the article in which I busted my ass on all the years of breaking free of the bondage of my family to do something that God put in me for passion and purpose was in the recycle bin.
Oh my God.
So what I'm saying to everyone is don't allow the recycle bin to be who you are.
Yeah.
Don't allow that to claim your joy or your life. And instead take that recycle bin and take that trash and move it into a treasure of shining your
Exactly.
genius upon the world, because we are needed as a healer. This is Heal the Healer series. We are needed more now than ever in the history of our universe that I'm aware of, other than the shamans back in the day, I guess, to really shine our genius and give a hand up, not hand out, for
Mhm.
anyone else, giving them permission and support. And it doesn't have to be family. And guess
Right.
what? You don't have to show up for every family function if you're being alienated and treated horrible. You don't
Mhm.
have to. I'm giving you permission not to. Don't be mean and angry. Just don't show up.
Exactly.
That's an example of what I'm talking about, that journey in reality, right? And it's understanding, I mean, tying it back, to what Leslie said, it's having that A and D, and go on a bike trip, and do this, and do that, right? So that was an example of my value right there.
Yeah.
What was my value to my
I can
family?
so relate to that. I
Yeah.
can so
Right?
relate to that, Angie.
And then that whole thing about how do you deal with that and come to the realization that everybody, ultimately, we're all in it for ourselves. And
Yeah.
we have to recognize that other people are in it for themselves as much as we're in it for ourselves. So when those kinds of things happen, like, oh, it's in the recycle bin, part of me says, what the F? But another part of me says, they're just looking out for themselves, and they're confronted by your success. So when you look at it in that realm, you can see that people who live certain kinds of lifestyles are going to be confronted by what you do if they see you as being, quote unquote, more successful. But it's all just comparison.
Right, but being able to move through that's really the key when we're talking about reality, right? What are the tools? Yeah, what are the tools for you to move through it? And that's where you really want to get that support to be able to move through it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that you have to realize that their life is so much about them that they can't see anything about anybody else as being what it authentically is, because they see it through their own filter of, well, I'm not that, so I don't want to be confronted about that because that makes me feel less than what I am. So I'm just going to push that aside and say that person is no good because they do that.
I think that's so true. It's the fear of not being good enough, isn't it, Leslie?
Yeah, it's that whole fear.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think Lisa was really hitting on it. Is that fear, and really all of this is a fear. So what, in this case, my mom, what is that fear, right? And really having the compassion and the grace to go into that person versus the anger, right? To go into that person's energy field or whatever work you do to find out, Lisa, I mean, I think you're right on it, is the fear. Where's that fear coming from that what my results were are recyclable? There's no value, right? Lisa, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, and that's my experience of fear. Is they're fearful of change and growth and personal change and growth. And I totally resonated with what you said there, Angie, because when I started on my journey, when you talk about God whoopings or whatever, whatever our listeners want to call them, whether they're religious or not, the God whoopings, I went through a period in my life, which I talk about in my book, and there's a relevance to me mentioning that, where within a period of 6 months, I was doing my final examinations for my chartered accountancy. I split up with my boyfriend. I was having tests for my heart. I put an offer in on a house because I was lucky enough to have the money to do that. Then I got put at risk of redundancy at work. So my whole life felt like it was crumbling around me, relationships, the career, the finances, everything, my health was crumbling around me. And you call them God whoopings. And definitely I wasn't, living my spirit, my purpose on GPS. And my reality was showing up as that because I wasn't in alignment. And, one of the first things, a couple of things I want to mention was, I noticing signs. So when my friend said to me, go and try some Reiki, I was like, what on earth is Reiki? And my instant reaction was to dismiss it because my logical accountancy brain was like, oh, that's too out there. But I thought, I'm going to listen to the whispers of the universe and I'm just going to get curious. And a couple of people had mentioned this to me. So I thought, I'm just going to take a look. I'm just going to be open enough to take a look. So the first thing was I was open to taking a look. And then the second thing was with my coaching. I said yes to myself. And I went and I worked with a coach, and resonating with your story, Angie, I came back and I was so happy after about 3 days. I was like, I finally found the key to unlocking who I am and you know, learning how to have a relationship with myself and start to navigate through the reality of life. And my family said to me, you've joined a cult. What's happened to you? Why are you so happy? And that fear of change and growth. And I felt really alone at the time. I felt really alone because I was going through this change and this growth for me, and I didn't have that support around me. And I just want our listeners to know that if you're feeling like that, then change is possible, because here I am. And I now do this as a job. And just circling back to my book, the reason why I mentioned it, a lot of people said to me, you won't be able to write a book. You were the accountant. You didn't do literature. And they're just opinions. And I was lucky enough that I didn't value them. I trusted in what I wanted to do, you know, on this journey of life. And I started writing a book. I mean, it's coming out soon. It's not out yet, but I finished the manuscript. And I just feel so proud of myself for committing and saying yes to myself to do the manuscript in the first place and not listening to everybody else through their fear. And like you said earlier, Leslie, about that comparison. And because they're comparing themselves to you, they want to pull you down with them. And it's about finding your tribe who lifts you and supports you. And maybe that's not your family or your current network of friends. And that's okay. They will come into your lives when you invite them.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. So we're getting near the end. So let's just do some wrap up. I really believe that we've given value through the entire Heal the Healer series. Say that 4 times real quick. And so let's just wrap up. Let's just start with you. What are some final takeaways or comments that you would love our listeners to listen and just immerse themselves into what you've got to say for a wrap up?
I would say that it all comes full circle and starts with listening to yourself, just getting quiet, listening to what's really going on in there and what are the changes that you want to bring. Spend some time. What does your ideal existence look like?
I love it.
And how can you start to take steps in that direction? It's going to evolve. I'm in the middle of some really big changes right now, and I have no idea how they're going to evolve, but I have faith that they're going to evolve to the highest and best way for me. And I just need to continue to get quiet and be quiet and listen and do what I'm being called to do.
Wow. I think the biggest thing for me is to be able to say yes to yourself and notice, agreeing with Leslie, you know, be still enough for long enough and have the faith and just notice the signs around you. You know, is it that someone's telling you to go and get some Reiki? Is that coach coming up into your awareness 3, 4, 5 times? Maybe you just need to have a chat with them, you know, start noticing who's and what's put in front of you that could help you take that next step on the journey so you can say yes to yourself. And like Leslie says, just have that faith and surrender and trust that this is your reality and you get to create and shape it.
I love it. That's excellent. Oh, I agree. Ditto for both of you. Well, I am very excited that we were able to bring the Heal the Healer series in all aspects, viewing you as a vehicle, having a GPS, a zip code, and then bringing along the journey. And I would like to leave everyone with the fact that I believe in you and that you do have a genius to shine, regardless of what anyone else is telling you. They don't have a clue. They're projecting themselves onto you. And I'm going to encourage you to mirror that back and say, thank you for sharing. One of my favorite 4 words, I might add, thank you for sharing. And move along and stand in your power, right? And by doing that, that does not mean you have to be mean or angry at other people. It doesn't mean that you have to go far right, left, or far left, or far right, or right again, or left, or it doesn't have to be an extreme, right? It means that, as we've all said, to listen to yourself and create the time slot in which to take action to live the life of your dreams, not society's. And again, I'll say it, maybe it's not a promotion. I just worked with a guy who gave up a $350,000 a year job and just bought a farm, and he's the happiest he's ever been.
Yay.
I love that.
Right? So I'm saying, what is right for you, your family? Look at that, and let's block out the rest of the world, and let's answer your call to the big universal calling for you in your life. So again, I'm grateful for our co-host and all of us. We have had a really fun time bringing this to you, and we hope that you will go back to this anytime you need a little nudge, a little kick in the backside, or I don't know, some encouragement. So until we see you again, God bless, and as always, make it an epic day. See ya.